today, people need cash flow to retire. Their IRAs and 401ks are not enough because we are living longer. I hear this stuff about, we're not living as long. The whole reason retirement was picked to be 65 is because most people died before 65. Life insurance companies say, hey, we need our life insurance policies to go to age 121. They're going to 121 for a reason because people are going to live till they're 121. And so there's a reason for that. So we are going to live longer. I'm saying you're going to die at 85 in these examples, when in fact, you may very well die at 95 or 100. Now what? Now we're 15 years off and we don't have any cash flow. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. All right, today let's talk about future requirements. I have done a podcast on this before almost 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, on the Without the Bank podcast, but I'm going to do it on the farming side. I have had a couple of people comment on some of my clips about the fact that I talk about that a 30-year-old is going to need almost $30 million to retire. And they're like, where are you getting your math? And so I'm going to show you the math. I have the calculator. So let's go there today and let's look at what are the future requirements, and not just the future requirements of a millennial, of a Gen Z, but what are the future requirements of even a Gen Xer? We are not figuring in inflation, and people think I'm making up these arbitrage numbers. So let's dive in and take a look at where they're coming from. So this is a Truth Concepts calculator. I use these calculators for everything. Everybody can get these calculators. You have to pay for them, but you can go to truthconcepts.com. There they are. So if we look at, and I absolutely love this calculator because it really shows what we're kind of missing, right? People are thinking that retirement is just going to be easier than it is, and it's not. And so let's say that let's start with a Gen Xer. And let's say that we have a 50-year-old, okay? And let's just say that their current income is $150,000 a year. And now we have to pay taxes. And so let's say we're in a 24% tax bracket. We have 32% going to debt. And let's just say our lifestyle is 35% maybe. Yeah, let's say our lifestyle is 35%. What that does is it leaves us with about 9% in savings. Let's just make this 34% and let's get to 10% in savings. Okay. We are going to save 10% of our $150,000 a year, which is $15,000 a year, which nobody's doing. But let's just give us the benefit of the doubt and say we are saving a lot of money. Okay. Now, how much do you want to live on at retirement? Some people are going to say, I don't need any money. I need to live on less at retirement. Well, I don't want to live on less at retirement. But if you're making $150,000, let's say that you think you can live on 80% of that. Okay. So you're going to live on $120,000 a year instead of $150,000. Now, you're going to retire. Most people think they're going to retire at 65. So let's just say retirement age is 65. And then what is inflation? Inflation right now is more than 4%, right? They're trying to get that down at the time of this recording, but inflation as a whole has averaged about 4%. So let's just say we have a 4% inflation rate. Just that. If you look at this, if you guys are not watching this on YouTube or you're not on Spotify watching this, go to YouTube or go to Spotify, pull this up so you can see the calculator. If you if you want to live on $120,000 and you're 50, that $120,000 when you're 65, in 15 years, $120,000 is going to feel like $216,000 today. That is with a 4% inflation. So now if we have people that are saving 10% and they go to a financial advisor and they're saving, in their 401ks or IRAs, the financial advisor is going to say, you can take 2 to 4% of that money out And that will last you to 85 years old, or it'll last you to 90, whatever that looks like for death. And so let's say that you've got this pool of money and you have you were going to take 3% out every single year. If I'm going to take 3% every year to live on $216,000, how much do I need? I'm going to need $7.2 million. Well, if I'm saving 10% and I need $7.2 million at 65, which is equivalent to 3.8 million of today's dollars. So then what do I need to get as a rate of return on that 10% every single year? I am going to need a 37.51% return every single year. Now, keep in mind, I ran this as if we don't have anything already in a 401k. And I did that because most people haven't saved a whole lot, right? I can change this and I will in a sec, but I want you to see if you're just saving today, what that looks like. So you're going to need a 37.5% rate of return, but you're going to need $3.8 million of today's dollars in 15 years. Or 7.2 million of tomorrow's dollars. And then we haven't even died yet. We just retired. So now what if we pass away at 85? What do we need to make as a rate of return to get us to 85? A 7% rate of return, a 7.07% every single year, but we're going to need $15.7 million to get us to 85. So what if we're saving 10%, we're 50, and let's say we've already got $250,000 saved in an IRA, okay? Now we need a 22% rate of return on what we're going to be saving and what we've already saved. We're going to need a 22% rate of return. 22% every single year. Okay, Mary Jo, that's not realistic. What if I've already saved $500,000? Okay, if you've already saved $500,000, you're going to need a 17.92, almost 18% rate of return to get us to those same numbers. Here's the thing. I don't really care about rates of return. You guys know that. Rates of return absolutely drive me crazy. But here's what the simple piece of this is how much of today's money are we going to need to live like we're living today, tomorrow? How much money are we going to need at 65 in order to live like we're living today? And a lot of people are like, I make $150,000 a year and I'm scrapping to get by. Yeah. Are you going to continue to scrap to get by? Is that the goal? Because if you want to continue to scrap like you're scrapping today, you're going to need $3.8 million. Most people are not saving 10%. Most people are saving 3% because they get a 3% match. So this is a matter of cash flow, right? What are we going to create for cash flow? Let's just reset some of these numbers. And let's say we are 30. And we are 30 and we are making, let's say at 30, we're making $80,000 a year. And we actually want to live on 100% of that. We want to live like, my God, we don't want to live on less. So when they are 65, their $80,000 a year is going to be $315,000 with a 4% inflation. If they're saving 10%, they need to make a 14.8% rate of return every single year. Inflation is such a huge, huge, huge factor, and we don't look at it, right? We're $80,000 today from 30 to 65 in 35 years. $80,000 is going to feel like $315,000 with a 4% inflation. What if we are 20, let's say we're 20 and we're making $80,000 a year, because there's a lot of 20-year-olds making $80,000 a year. That's $467,000. That's what that feels like, right? And we're saving 10%. That's an 11% rate of return because we're still saving this same 10. We're still going to retire at 65. We want to live on 100% of that. We need an 11.57% rate of return every single year. Every single year. So we're going to need $15 million. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. What happens if we have, let's just go back here and say we're 35 or we're 40 and we're making $150,000 a year, even as a household. That's not super abnormal, right? We have a 4% inflation. We're going to need $13 million, which is $30 million to get us to 85. So people are like, where are you coming up with this astronomically high number? Inflation. We're going to need $4.8 million of today's money if we're 40. That is huge. Absolutely huge. And we're not looking at that. We're like, oh, well, $3 million should be fine of today's money. Not when you figure in inflation. So we need to look at the big picture. Yes, I don't have what we already have in there as assets for rate of return. I don't really care about the rate of return. There's no scenario that's going to be a 4 or 5% rate of return unless you save probably 50% of your income. I don't know. I haven't run those numbers because I frankly don't care. For me, it's about cash flow. This whole thing should be telling you we need cash flow because future requirements of what we're going to need to live are so astronomical with inflation that there's no way to do it unless we start building businesses, buying ground, buying rental properties, something that creates cash flow. If we start businesses that create cash flow comes to us. If we have rental properties, cash flow comes to us. If we have assets, we can sell that for cash flow, right? If we owner finance somebody because we're selling something to them and we owner finance them, that's cash flow. We need to switch our mindset from a savings to cash flow. How much cash flow are we going to need so we can have $400,000 a year to live like we're living today on 150? That's where I'm getting my numbers. I hope that there's a lot there and you might have to watch this more than once to unpack it, but the number for inflation should be enough to scare you a little bit to say, I need to pay closer attention to my finances and what I'm doing for the future. And how can I do that? Well, this is where infinite banking comes in. Because if we're putting our money in a 401k system and an IRA system, it's sitting there, we're looking for this rate of return. If we put it inside of the policy, we have liquidity of it. So we can go buy something. We can start a business with that money. We can do something with that money that creates cash flow. And that cash flow is going to continue through our lifetime. And then that cash flow can go create more cash flow. And if you're young and listening to this, you're like, well, how do I do that? Well, this isn't the only step to that process. If you are 50 and you're like, Mary Jo, it's too late. The hell it is. It's never too late to start something and create cash flow. And so if you guys heard me talk about, if you guys did not see me on the Wealthy Cowboy podcast, go to the Wealthy Cowboy podcast. He just released our episode a couple of weeks ago. And I talk about on there that as Gen X and as boomers, we have so much knowledge and we are not sharing it. We're not monetizing it. And there is an opportunity to monetize that. And so let's start monetizing things so that we can create cash flow. And that monetization just might look like a YouTube channel. It might look like videos that you're sharing and charging people for. It might be consulting fees, something that you have all this knowledge up here. How are we going to create cash flow? Or if we have money right now in a savings account in an IRA, can we use that money to buy something that's going to create cash flow or start a business that's going to create cash flow? Here's the thing. If you don't do any of the above, you're likely going to run out of money. What are you more scared of, running out of money or having something fail? The reason most people don't do anything is because they are so scared of failure. They're scared of losing their money that they leave it in the IRA where it's going to go up and down, but they've just accepted that, right? But they're just going to not worry about running out of money. We just don't have to worry about it. And so it's not a worry. If we actually do something over here with a rental property, if we do something with a business, if we do something else, then we have to worry about that failing, and then we're going to lose our money. You're going to lose it on both sides. It's just get over yourself and get over the fear. Get started so that you have the ability to create something bigger. What we've been taught to go punch a clock and put money in and do what we do, that's not going to help us in the future when we need these astronomically massive amounts of money because of inflation. And so, people say, oh, it's all going to be relative. It is going to be relative. And the relativity is going to be the people that can't retire today and are working at Walmart and working at Menards and Lowe's and all these places that these retired people are working. That's going to be relative in the aspect that it's just going to continue. And we're just never, and they're not working because they want to work. Most of them are working because they have to work. Medicare has not Medicare's gone up. Social Security has gone up enough to cover maybe the Medicare, maybe not even that. And so these people are having to work to supplement retirement because nobody gave them the actual numbers of what it's going to cost with inflation. Taxes don't stop. All those things don't stop. And so you can say, well, Mary Jo, it's all relative. The dollar value, what everything costs, it's all going to be relative. It is, but we're relatively going to be in the exact same spot we are today without cash flow. And today, people need cash flow to retire. Their IRAs and 401ks are not enough because we are living longer. I don't care. I hear this stuff about, oh, we're not living as long. Okay, the whole reason retirement was picked to be 65 is because most people died before 65. Life insurance companies say, hey, we need our life insurance policies to go to age 121. They're going to 121 for a reason because people are going to live till they're 121. And so there's a reason for that. So we are going to live longer. I'm saying you're going to die at 85 in these examples, when in fact, you may very well die at 95 or 100. Now what? Now we're 15 years off and we don't have any cash flow. Okay. Hope that helps. If you want to argue with me, please do. Let me know. Email me, MaryJo@WithoutTheBank. If you want to understand how to use the life insurance policy, how to use infinite banking to get all of this stuff done and have the money in the policy so we can avoid some of the taxes, which I didn't even hardly talk about, then go to farmingwithoutthebank.com, grab the book, read it, set up your appointment with myself or John, and we will help you figure all of that out. All right, you guys, you have a fantastic rest of your day and let me know if you have questions or comments.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.